Tasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanditam Tam Sujivam Sadhavaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhantansha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurkashre Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Padithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone once again. We are doing the class after 2 weeks. So we're studying Sri Ishopanishad and we have covered till mantra number 3. The first section of the book is completed. The first section of the book talks about absolute truth and the law through which the absolute truth manages the affairs of the whole universe or the creation, and that law is called Ishavasya consciousness, or Ishavasya principle. So we also discussed the consequence of following that law and the consequence of not following that. Fine, that is covered. Now a new section begins from verse number 4, and this new section goes up to verse number 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these verses or mantras that talk about the inconceivable nature of the absolute truth. The subject matter of this book, Sri Ishopanishad, is absolute truth. So everything is centered around that subject matter. So these mantras talk about his inconceivable nature, which means through limited material intelligence, one cannot understand absolute truth. It is very interesting, though the Vedas say that the Lord cannot be understood, his nature is inconceivable, yet the Vedas describe that nature also. Like for example, if I tell you, this subject cannot be understood. So what's the point then in describing that subject anyway? Isn't that waste of time? So the Vedas say Lord is achintya, inconceivable. But at the same time, the Vedas describe the Lord. So what exactly do we have to understand? Why do the Vedas do that? And if they do that, why do they say that Lord is inconceivable or not knowable? Anyone would like to answer? Anshu Mataji. You have to unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. With our material mind senses, we cannot.
Wait a second. Okay. Yes, Anshu Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. What I mean is that what it means is that Lord cannot be understood fully, but we can know to some extent. So to some extent, we based on our understanding and on by the mercy of the Lord and Guru, we can get some glimpse and some knowledge about the Lord. Otherwise, Lord cannot be understood fully.
Okay. Anything else? Lalita Preshta Gopinath.
Hare Krishna. I think as per the mantra, it says that because the Lord can also, at the same time, he can act and also not act. He can be in the outside and can be also inside. And how to say, he can be impersonalist, can also be personalist. Yeah, so this is contradictory, yeah, in our, as per our mind. So that's why it's inconceivable. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It seems my internet is weak today. Anyway, I heard you and I could understand voice clearly enough. Is it clear? Hare Krishna. Is my voice clear? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
It's breaking, Prabhu.
Little breaking, Prabhuji.
It is breaking.
No, earlier it was breaking. Now it is better, Prabhu.
Now it is better. All right. Fine. So I'll keep my video off then. So then, as I said, these mantras will speak about the inconceivable nature of the Lord. Some of you raised your hand to answer my question. Basically, the point we have to understand is the Vedas, they say that the Lord is inconceivable, yet the Vedas describe the Lord because the way one can understand the Lord, if one follows that process, then one needs to also check whether my understanding and my realization is correct or not. That's the reason the Vedas describe the nature of the Lord. You know? So I've already mentioned this before. The Vedas are like a map. You know, so when you are having a journey from one place to another place, you're moving from one place to another place. The map is in your hand. That doesn't mean that you have reached that place. You just know what is the path to reach that place. And when you are moving on that path, then the map will also show you some benchmarks to help you understand that you are on the right path. Correct? Hare Krishna. Voice is breaking. Oh, just a second. Hare Krishna. I'm sorry. Is it better now? Because it's showing me that I'm having good internet speed. I mean, decent speed. I don't know why the voice not reach.
Voice is clear, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhu, voice is clear. Prabhu.
It is okay now.
No, it was fine. I think, I don't know. Others probably they are having issues.
Okay. All right. So as I was explaining, the Vedas are like a map. They tell us the direction, the path, and the benchmarks that one will reach to when one is moving towards God realization. So that's why the Vedas describe the absolute truth. So these verses or mantras are of that nature. We'll study mantra 4 and 5 today, sharing the screen. I hope after I share the screen, my voice still remains audible enough. So Lord's inconceivable nature. This mantra explains that the supreme absolute truth is inconceivable to our normal intelligence, and only when we align ourselves to His will do we begin to understand Him by His mercy. The mercy factor plays a very important role. Okay, so let's look at this mantra. Anejat ekam manaso javiyo naina deva apnuvan purvamarshad tadhavato anyanat yeti tishtat tasmin napo matarishva dadhati. The translation is, although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he controls those who supply the air and rain, he surpasses all in excellence. So you might have noticed there are contradictions in these verses or mantras, right? Like for example, it's mentioned, although he's fixed in his abode, he is swifter than the mind. That's a contradiction. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. If he's fixed in one place, why people cannot approach him? But they cannot approach him. Although in one place, he controls those who supply the air and rain. Now, air and rain is everywhere, and he is one place, and he controls them. He surpasses all in excellence. So, as I mentioned before in the introduction session, this is the style of the Upanishads to impart knowledge. The Upanishads, they don't talk in straight lines. They talk in indirect statements. Why? Because the student of the Upanishads are intellectual people. They don't like simple statements. They like riddles, so that they can break their head trying to understand what it means. So that also leaves a scope of speculation. Okay, this mantra means this, that mantra means that. So they can speculate in different manners and make their own meanings or translations. Purport. Someone would like to read the first paragraph? Amrita Vilasani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandana Pranam. Through mental speculations, even the greatest philosophers cannot know the Supreme Lord, who is the absolute personality of Godhead. He can be known only by his devotees through his mercy. In the Bhagavad-gita 5.34, it is stated that even if a non-devotee philosopher travels through space at the speed of the wind or the light for hundreds of millions of years, he will still find that the absolute truth is far, far away from him. The Brahma-samhita 5.37 further describes that the absolute personality of Godhead has his transcendental abode, known as Goloka, whether he remains and engaged in his pastimes, yet by his inconceivable potencies, he can simultaneously reach every part of his creative energy. In the Vishnu Purana, his potencies are compared to the heat and the light that emanate from a fire. Although situated in one place, a fire can distribute its light and heat for some distance. Similarly, the absolute personality of Godhead, although fixed in his transcendental abode, can diffuse his different energies everywhere. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So, anejat means without motion. Manaso javiyo, swifter than the quickest mind. So this contradiction may be counteracted by someone saying that it is impossible, something does not move, at the same time that thing is faster than the mind. So here, why is it said that the Lord does not move? Because the Lord is everywhere. So why does he have to move? I am not everywhere, so I have to move from one place to another place. But Krishna is everywhere. So if I have to meet Krishna, and Krishna is now in this room, and then we decide, okay, we'll walk 50 kilometers to meet Krishna there in a different place. Does Krishna have to walk 50 kilometers? No, because Krishna is already there. So he doesn't have to move. In that way, he's fixed because he's everywhere. He's all pervading. So the intended meaning of this statement is that we have to understand God is everywhere, or God is all pervading. And because he's all pervading, he's faster than anyone else. No one can chase him. No one can catch him. No one can run behind him. And the mind can also not chase him, because the mind has a limit to where it can go. Like, for example, if I ask you individually, how far your mind can go? So, how far? Maybe from India to United States. That's all. But then, if can that mind go to the heavens and see what's going on in the heavens now, or even imagine? No. Can that mind go to the Satyaloka, the planet of Brahmaji? No. Can that mind then, that's why, go to Golok Vrindavan? No. So it can go to some extent, to the extent of your experience. Your imagination is also based on your experience. If not experience of this life, experience of some other life. The mind can go only to that extent. Like, for example, we read some fictional creations, like the Lord of the Rings. There's a book called The Lord of the Rings, very famous, and there's Harry Potter. So in this, the authors, they have imagined something from their mind. You know, creatures having the body of a horse and the head of a human, or, you know, creatures who are dwarf in size, so on. But is that really their imagination, or is it their experience? Maybe in some past life, they have come across such beings, and now they are able to just recall that from their subconscious mind. So our imagination is also limited, isn't it? So we cannot chase the Lord through our mind. And that's what Prabhupada mentions in the first paragraph. He says, Golok eva nivasitya akhilnatma bhutaha. Lord lives in Golok Vrindavan, and our mind cannot help us reach him or catch him. Let's look at the PPT. The Lord is fixed yet swifter than the mind. So to summarize, he's fixed in his abode. What is the name of that abode? Golok. What does he do there? Engages in his pastimes. Swifter than the mind means what? He's all-pervading, and all-pervading by inconceivable potencies. So let's discuss the potencies now. The Supreme Lord has, as per Upanishad, innumerable potencies, so many that we cannot count. But then the scriptures, just to help us, categorize those potencies in three categories: internal, marginal, external. You have read it several times in Prabhupada books, right? Internal potency is made up of three energies: Sangvit, Sandhini, Haladini. And there are three personalities who are in charge of these three potencies. Samvit potency, the in charge is Lord Balaram. Sandhini potency, the in charge is Lord Krishna. And Haladini potency, the in charge is Srimati Radharani. Okay. Then, and the spiritual sky is made up of these three energies or potencies. Then there are marginal potency, which consists of the demigods, the humans, the other living entities. And there's external potency, which has tamas, rajas, sattva. Three in spiritual world, because material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. Three in the material world. Opposite to what is present in the spiritual world. Three in the material world. But the Lord has innumerable potencies. Parasya Shakti Vidyabhushana Shuyate. The material world is a creation of these three potencies. Okay, so discuss that. And he remains far away, means he's beyond mental speculation. Prabhupada gives the example that fire is at one place, but fire is all-pervading. It spreads around through its energy of heat and light. Similarly, God is at one place, but he's everywhere through his energies. 2 days ago, we celebrated the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. So Lord Nrsimhadev was not living in that pillar from the day of the creation of the palace. It's not that he went there, hid inside the pillar. Okay, one day Hiranyakashipu will break this pillar and I'll suddenly come out of this pillar. No, it's not that he was hiding in there, but he manifested himself from that pillar because he's everywhere. The point to learn is that Lord is also in my heart. And if I take some efforts, then that Lord will also manifest in my heart. Very much alive, just like he came out of the pillar. You know? So he'll be very much alive like that because he's everywhere. And he can be known only by his mercy or by the devotee's mercy. Fine, let's read the next paragraph. Who would like to read, please? Okay, so many hands are up. Vrindarani Mataji. Have you unmuted yourself, Vrindarani Mataji?
Sorry, Hare Krishna. Although his energies are innumerable, they can be divided into three principal categories: the internal potency, the marginal potency, and the external potency. There are hundreds and millions of sub-headings to each of these categories. The dominating demigods, who are empowered to control and administer such natural phenomena as air, light, and rain, are all classified within the marginal potency of the absolute person. Lesser living beings, including humans, also belong to the Lord's marginal potency. The material world is the creation of Lord's external potency, and the spiritual sky, where the kingdom of God is situated, is the manifestation of his internal potency.
Thank you. Next paragraph. Rajshri Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the Bhagavad, thus the different energies of the Lord are present everywhere. Although the Lord and his energies are non-different, one should not mistake these energies for the supreme truth, nor should one wrongly consider that the Supreme Lord is distributed everywhere impersonally, or that he loses his personal existence. Men are accustomed to reaching conclusions according to their capacity for understanding. But the Supreme Lord is not subject to our limited capacity for understanding. It is for this reason that the Upanishads warn us that no one can approach the Lord by his own limited potency.
Therefore, people, when they study the God subject matter, they have to study with precaution that we may not understand everything. Similarly, when we study the Vedas or the scriptures, we should understand we should try to understand the scriptures with this basic understanding that we cannot understand it fully. It is beyond our capacity to understand it fully. But the people who are too much in the achievers mode, and they have studied their academics with this particular mentality that I will conquer the subject, I'll become the master of the subject, they will find it very difficult to understand why they are not able to make any sense out of the Vedic scriptures. Because the approach is wrong. The approach is of achieving the knowledge, not receiving the knowledge. So that attitude has to be accepted. That attitude is very, very essential. And then that attitude makes the message to be revealed to us. Isn't it? So Prabhupada mentions, men are accustomed to reaching conclusions according to their capacity for understanding. But the Supreme Lord is not subject to a limited capacity for understanding. A perfect example of that is the modern historians, Indologists, who study the Vedas, and then they say that the Vedas are not more than 4,000, 5,000 years old. So everything, Ramayana, Mahabharata, all that has happened within the last 5,000 years. Because before that, there was no human civilization. So then they make up their own conclusions, and then they will say these are only stories, don't have to really believe in this, right? Because they are trying to understand it by their own limited intelligence. Next paragraph. Who cannot know the Lord? Bhagavad-gita, we studied this. The Lord says even the demigods and the sages cannot know me. Anyone remembers why the demigods and the sages cannot remember him, cannot know him or understand him?
They are in mode of goodness, more goodness. They are comfort. They are in comfortable zone.
The sages are not in comfort zone. Yes, Prabhu.
Because they are also considered as conditional souls.
No.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Because origin of them are Krishna.
Very good, thank you. So because they have also come from Krishna, and because they have come from Krishna, how can they know their source completely? They cannot. Because Krishna was there before they came into being. His grace, Sarvabhauma Prabhu, a very famous ISKCON preacher, he tells this example. He says, how can a child know everything about the father? Because the father exists from before the child. Cannot know everything. But the father can know everything about the child. Because the child exists from after the father's existence, right? So they were created by the Lord. Yes, that's why they cannot know fully. Let's read this paragraph now. Although the individual parts and parcels. Okay. So many hands up. Sureka Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Sarthak Pranam. Prabhuji, although the individual parts?
Yeah.
Okay. Although the individual parts and parcels of the Lord's potencies have all the symptoms of Lord himself, they have limited sphere of activity and are therefore all limited. The part and parcels are never equal to the whole. Therefore, they cannot appreciate the Lord's full potency. Under the influence of material nature, foolish and ignorant living beings who are but the part and parcel of the Lord try to conjecture about the Lord's transcendental position. Sri Ishopanishad warns of the futility of trying to establish the identity of the Lord through the mental speculation. One should try to learn to the transcendence from the Lord himself, the supreme source of the Vedas. For the Lord alone has full knowledge of the transcendence. Very good.
So no one can know the Lord, even the sages and the demigods, because the Lord is their origin and they are limited, and the Lord is unlimited. Then Prabhupada mentions how to know him from the Lord himself, the source of the Vedas. The Vedas are the words of God. So we can know from Vedas because it is Krishna himself speaking through the Vedas, right? And at the same time, there are certain subject matters and there are certain personalities about whom the Vedas also cannot tell us. Even Vedas don't have a right to speak about such personalities, or those personalities are so confidential that even the Vedas cannot reveal their glories. One such personality is Srimati Radharani. Therefore, in the Vedic scriptures, you don't find much mention of Srimati Radharani, right? Because that subject matter is so confidential that even the Vedas don't have access to it. Can't talk about it. Or cannot talk about much in detail about Golok Vrindavan, what's going on in Golok Vrindavan. Cannot speak much in detail. So how do we then come to know about that subject matter? We come to know about that subject matter when the associates of Krishna and Srimati Radharani in Golok Vrindavan come to this world and reveal those pastimes through their meditation. Then only we come to know about them or about those activities. Otherwise, we don't come to know about them. So they reveal. So therefore, their Vani or their words are sometimes considered superior to the words of the Vedas. Superior to the words of the Vedas. Technically, this is called Sadhu Pramana. Sadhu Pramana means if a sadhu has said it, it is true. And if you study the Vedas, you may find it somewhere located in the Vedic scriptures also, that statement. But even if you don't find it in the Vedas, if a very bona fide and genuine sadhu has said it, it has to be true. Because it's coming, that knowledge is coming because of connection with that platform of knowledge. So then whatever that person speaks, that is being inspired by that land of eternal and pure knowledge. So that thing becomes a truth, not false. Next paragraph. Kunal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Every part and parcel of the complete whole is endowed with some particular energy to act according to the Lord's will. When the part and parcel living entity forgets his particular activities under the Lord's will, he is considered to be in Maya, illusion. Thus, from the very beginning, Sri Ishopanishad warns us to be very careful to play the part designated for us by the Lord. This does not mean that the individual soul has no initiative of his own. Because he's part and parcel of the Lord, he must partake of the initiative of the Lord as well. When a person properly utilizes his initiative or active nature with intelligence, understanding that everything is a Lord's potency, he can revive his original consciousness, which was lost due to association with Maya, the external energy. Thank you.
So the individual soul has an ability to take initiative, but that ability of taking initiative is contaminated because of association with material energy. So now the initiative of the living entity is something which is against the will of the Lord and not in the direction of the will of the Lord. So when that consciousness is purified, rectified, then the living entity can take initiatives for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. when he or she revives his original consciousness. That's why, please try to understand, Srila Prabhupada, the way he preaches the message of Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, he does not emphasize so much on the rituals, but he emphasizes so much on bringing revolution in the consciousness of people. You hear Prabhupada's classes. Do you find him narrating the stories most of the times? No, he does not. But he aims on something else. What is that? If you are reading this book or if you are hearing my lecture, then you should bring a change in your consciousness, the way you are looking at everything. Revive your original consciousness, the Krishna consciousness. Now, when that is revived, then one doesn't need any further actually guidance or instruction. Then the knowledge starts coming out from within itself, because we are properly connected to the proper source of knowledge. So here it's mentioned one needs to revive that original consciousness and then utilize one's ability to take initiative to serve the Supreme Lord. All power is obtained from the Lord. Therefore, each particular power must be utilized to execute the will of the Lord, not otherwise. The Lord can be known by one who has adopted such a submissive service attitude. Now, this is something which I really emphasize a lot for the devotees, and now you can do a personal exercise, a reflective exercise, that think and note down in a notebook, what are those special abilities or powers that Krishna has given to you as an individual, which you think you are better at compared to other people around you? And how can you use those powers or abilities in Krishna Seva? This is something for you to meditate upon now and write down in your notebook. What is that Krishna has given you very special, which is more than people around you? And you can use that specific ability or power in Krishna Seva. First step is to realize that. And the second step is to utilize that in Krishna Seva. That utility leads to greater Krishna consciousness. And also it leads to satisfaction of the heart. So what is that something? There has to be something. It can be anything. It can be money, it can be fame, it can be knowledge, it can be specific skills of cooking, decorating, speaking, singing. It can be one's intelligence. It can be one's managerial abilities. It can be anything. What is that thing? Because in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami says that one should offer the best to Krishna. Now, to offer the best to Krishna, should I not know what is the best in me? Then only I'll offer that best to Krishna. Like for myself, though I don't have much good, but my best is that I can teach. And that's what I offer to Krishna. So what is that in you? Maybe you need some, please mute yourself, Rashishwari Mataji. So maybe you need some time to meditate on this. Do meditate on this and try to find out. and then try to use that to offer back to Krishna. Because, you know, this is something which is so important. When we don't understand this principle that we have something best in us and that's what we need to offer to Krishna, we will be falsely competing with others and trying to become like them. You know, oh, that person is singing, I should also sing. That person is cooking, I should also cook. That person is preaching, I should also preach. That person is a temple president, I should also become a temple president. That person is this, I should also become like that. So you'll be falsely competing with people. And in that competition, you don't really get the real satisfaction. But when you find what is the best in you, you don't have to compete with anyone. You just offer that best to Krishna. You don't have to compete with anyone. You just give that to Krishna. And that's what Krishna is also looking from us. Because he's not looking from each one of us everything. He's looking from each one of us something specific. And the goal of this human form of life, Sripad mentions in one place, is to find that specific thing. Once you have found it and you start offering it back to Krishna, then the path to self-realization opens. Okay, someone would like to share? What is that best? Even if you imagine that's the best in you, still you can share, no problem. Whose hand is up for sharing and whose hand is up for reading? I don't know.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Can I say something, Prabhu?
Yes, say. What is the best we can offer?
The opportunity. Yeah, Prabhuji. I can say one thing, that really God has given me so many good qualities. Like I can sing Kirtan.
Sing Kirtan.
I can sing Kirtan. So whenever I sing Kirtan means I sing it very beautifully, and also when I sing it, then I feel myself very good. And also some means other people also they become attracted and they used to say, Prabhuji, you sing Kirtan very nice, so you please sing like that. This is one quality. Then second thing, Prabhuji, really after means doing this Bhakti-sastri course and after having your classes, means whenever I used to give any class, and I don't say anything means from my own idea, but whatever I learned from you and by reading the book of Prabhupada and from other devotees like that. So when I speak the same, then they like it very much. So when I means do this, and when the people they become attracted, then I think that why Lord Krishna has given me this quality. So Krishna wants me to engage me in his service. So I realize, okay, then what I have to do? That I have to learn all these things under the guidance of devotee like you. Then only we can means attract other people, and we can also bring them in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Okay, we'll hear from others also. Yes, thank you so much. So Krishna has given you the ability to sing. Nice. So you can use that in Krishna Seva. Very good. Thank you. That's nice. Good. Yes. Anyone else?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Ishopanishad.
Yes, Prabhu.
In fact, in my early life, I was stammering a lot, but my singing ability was there. So in the bank or the organization also, even when I was general manager, and at the end of the professional meetings, the MD used to tell me, Aneja, why don't you sing? So after superannuation, I have started learning harmonium and the kirtan also. And I propose to do that in the temple also, Dwarka, Delhi. And second was the, as you said, the managerial abilities. In the organization, I was identified as one of the best regional managers also, who can control and guide and motivate the branch managers. So this aspect still I have not utilized in the temple management that I propose to do. And because of this stammering, I had resolved that I will teach also. So when there were farewell parties in the organization, some of the branch managers used to come to the farewell speeches that this fellow speaks very effectively. So one of the general managers told me, my chief manager told me, today is the farewell, he will speak. We would like to listen to him. So after making notes of all you are teaching, my Shiksha Guru here in Delhi has also advised me, why don't you preach at the center? So I have decided that whatever is the plus point, if I am able to speak something effectively, if people can understand well, or I am able to correlate with the audiences, so that these things I have in mind. Still, singing is on my first plan to do kirtan in the temple. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Okay, so we'll take one more. Sada Harinam Prabhu. Okay. Sada Harinam Prabhu. Are you there?
Yes, Prabhu.
You said you want to share something?
No. You asked to share screen sharing. You wanted to do
something. No.
So I thought like that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So one person has a question that when you show your skills, do they diminish? Or when you display them indirectly, do they diminish? Similarly, does one's bhakti take a backseat if we share spiritual experiences? Oh yes, if we share with pride, then yes, definitely. Sharing our spiritual experiences or our mind may lead to a downfall in our Krishna consciousness. But then if you are thinking that these qualities are my qualities, then of course you are doing a big mistake, because those good qualities are coming from Krishna only, right? So when we are saying what good you have, it's not that we are telling you now become a puffed up man and woman, and then you go today in the class, I told you I have this good quality, So that's not the purpose. The purpose is that Krishna is the most good person, and he has given you some little good with so much bad, but some little good. So identify that little good, knowing that that is coming from Krishna, and then you give it back to Krishna, right? So there's no need to be proud about it. It's just that Krishna has done a favor upon us and given us something good. So we use it back in Krishna's name, right? So please do this homework, because if you understand this, it will open a new horizon of Krishna consciousness for you. And then Krishna consciousness will also become a more exciting process. Because you'll be doing something which you are good at. And you also know that Krishna is accepting it. Not just Krishna, even the devotee community is accepting it. So it becomes a cause of inspiration. And furthermore, in long run in Krishna consciousness, you need this understanding. Because in the initial days in Krishna consciousness, we are doing everything. But in long run, when our spiritual masters are not physically around with us, when the devotee friends whom you made in the initial days of your spiritual life, they're not around us, so many things are not the same as before, then the thing that you can hold on to is your seva for Krishna. That service which you have been doing for Krishna for years and years and years and years and years. That's what you can hold on to, right? So that's why this is something which every devotee has to understand. What is the best? Yes.
One question. We always talk about seva to Krishna. What are the difference? It is a temple seva, or any other things are also included in the seva?
It can be anything which is done with the mode of seva, no? It doesn't have to be only at the temple. You can do seva at your home also. Wherever you do Krishna seva, that place becomes a temple. It's not that when I go to temple and do something that becomes seva. Whenever you do something for Krishna's pleasure, that place becomes a temple. So someone may go to temple also and do something and may not do it for Krishna's pleasure. Right? So that's the whole idea. The attitude of service has to be developed. And then regardless of where we are, wherever we do that service, it's a service. Okay, last paragraph. Sorry, I'm sorry. I cannot take all the contributions, but then you can personally write to me. Perfect knowledge means knowing the Lord in all his features, knowing his potencies, and knowing how these potencies work by his will. These matters are described by the Lord in the Bhagavad-gita, the essence of all the Upanishads. So, Acharyas, they give very elaborate commentaries on these verses or mantras, and then say, look at Krishna's inconceivable nature. Though he is situated in his eternal abode called Goloka, he is simultaneously connected to those people who are with him and also with those people who have rejected him. Some people have rejected him and come to the material world, and Krishna is still with them. And Acharyas say, this is the quality of a very powerful personality. A powerful personality can influence people when they are physically around him or her, and they can also influence people when they are not physically around him. That's how they're very powerful. So a devotee, practicing devotee, should have this faith, especially on one's spiritual master and the acharyas, that though they may not be around us physically, but yet their influence upon us is still there. And they can also control us, and they can also guide us. Of course, one should be ready to accept that guidance and control. Then that control and guidance will come in a greater amount. But they can guide us and control us. In fact, they can monitor everything that's going on in our life and give us protection also. Because they are powerful personalities. They can do such things. You may not know this, or you may not have heard this. When we take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master who is a liberated soul, it is mentioned, then that spiritual master enters into your body and starts living in your body. He expands himself, his energy, and starts living in your body. And because of that energy's presence in your body or in yourself, you are inspired to continue executing Krishna consciousness. Because otherwise, a conditioned soul cannot draw any inspiration to practice Krishna consciousness. That's not in the nature of a conditioned soul. So the spiritual master expands his energy and manifests that energy in the body of the conditioned soul who has become a disciple. And that expansion then helps the conditioned soul derive all the strength and inspiration to practice Krishna consciousness. So this is what the spiritual master can do. That's why those who are pure devotees of Krishna, they are not at all like ordinary human beings. They are very powerful personalities. And they can influence or control our life to that much extent, if we understand it or if we have faith in it. Completely they'll control. Like, I'll give you an example. His Holiness Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj, he had a disciple who was serving him personally. And he would go on tours, international tours with him. So this disciple of Sripad Gaur Govind Maharaj, before coming to Krishna consciousness, he was very loose in his behavior with girls. So he had many girlfriends. So after he came to Krishna consciousness, he became a little sober. Okay, I'll control myself. So one day he traveled to some country with Maharaj, and he saw a very beautiful young girl. And without saying anything, he just went and kissed her. So the news reached to the spiritual master that this assistant of yours is going around kissing girls. This is not good. So Sri Srimad Gaur Govind Maharaj called him. And Sri Srimad Gaur Govind Maharaj was very strict spiritual master. If his disciples would do a mistake, he had a stick, and he would beat with that stick. So he was very strict, because now for us it will be difficult to accept this, but he was a teacher in a government school, so he had that that background. In our days also, teachers beat us with a stick. I don't know how many of you have got a beating with a stick. How many of you have got a beating with a stick? Raise your hands. Okay. Nowadays it's a crime. You can't do that. But in those days it was okay. It was acceptable. So he had that background. So he would beat his disciple with a stick. So he called his disciple and he slapped him. And then he told him something very interesting. He said, the day I gave you initiation, I started living in your body. So don't contaminate your body by doing nonsense things. Because if you do that, I leave that body and go away. I leave that body and go away. So when the spiritual master then leaves the body of the disciple, then the disciple becomes weak in Krishna consciousness. So the powerful personalities, they have this ability. They're very powerful. And therefore, that's how they can influence the lives of the other living entities. They can influence. So that's what happens. So Krishna is also like that. He is far away from us, but he controls us, or he can interact with us. He can communicate with us. And the good thing is that though we leave Krishna, Krishna does not leave us. Though we turn our back upon Krishna, Krishna does not turn his back upon us. He's always with us, giving us a chance to come back. Okay? We'll stop on discussion on this mantra now. Go to the next mantra, but let's take a break. Come back. We will start mantra 5 now. Same theme, shows the inconceivable potency of the Lord. And because of these potencies, he becomes unknowable to those whom he does not favor. He becomes unknowable. Let's read. Tad ejati tannajati tad dure tad vantike tadantarasya sarvasya tad u sarvasyasya bahayataha tad ejati tannajati tad dure tad vantike. Again contradictions in each line. Ejati, najati means walks, does not walk. Tad dure tad vantike means is far away, but is very near as well. And tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahayataha. Is inside everything, is outside. Again contradictions, right? If something can walk, how can I say it cannot walk? If something is far, how can I say it is near? If something is inside, how can I say it is also outside? But the Lord, he fulfills all these conditions or contradictions simultaneously. Purport. Yes, Varshana Leela Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
The purport, first paragraph.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah. Here is a description. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Here is a description of some of the Supreme Lord's transcendental activities executed by his inconceivable potencies. The contradiction given here proves the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. He walks and he does not walk. Ordinarily, if someone can walk, it is illogical to say he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such a contradiction simply serves to indicate his inconceivable power. With our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot accommodate such contradictions, and therefore we conceive of the Lord in terms of our limited powers of understanding. For example, the impersonalist philosophers of Mayavad school accept only the Lord's impersonal activities and reject his personal feature. But the members of Bhagavata school, adopting the perfect conception of Lord, accept his inconceivable potencies and thus understand that he is both personal and impersonal. The Bhagavatas know that without inconceivable potencies, there can be no meaning to the word Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the Lord is simultaneously present everywhere and not present everywhere. Simultaneously one with everything and not one with everything. Sripad mentions in Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam that who cannot grasp the simultaneous oneness and difference of Krishna should try to focus on everything they see around them, whether it's a tree, a mountain, a plant, a living entity, a river, anything, and meditate on that thing's connection to the Lord. This is something very essential actually, because when we are making progress in Krishna consciousness, we have to move closer and closer to the absolute nature of ourselves, which means our vision has to do the transition from moving from material vision to spiritual vision. The vision of seeing the difference to the vision of seeing the oneness. And that vision is only possible by either past good karma, or that vision is possible by practice. So how to practice it? That is given in Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is what whatever we see, try to see that thing's connection with the Supreme Lord. It's a little philosophical approach towards looking at everything you see, not really the experiential approach. Experiential approach is, okay, this is nice to see, this is not so nice to see. I like it, I don't like it. That is the experiential approach. But the more philosophical approach is, everything that I see, where is it coming from? Who is it connected to? How is it related to Krishna? So in our day-to-day life, when we are running around trying to do so many things, we may not be able to see in this manner. It's not really practically possible because we are in a different mood. We have so many things to carry out, and then you have to be more on the material platform, right? Isn't it? But then on some days, on specific days, or during some moments in the day, one has to switch to this nature known as reflective nature and try to look everything around you with the eyes of the scriptures. For a grihastha, this may not be very easily possible, but still they should be able to take out some time to do it. That instead of seeing things through the eyes we have, see them through the eyes of the scripture. That will help in what Sripad says, to understand that God is simultaneously is present in everyone, in everything. Okay, so this is a practice to be done. Now it's up to you how much time you want to invest in this, but then it will be very helpful. Now, when one begins to think like that, like for example, if I see that every single body around me has the presence of the super soul, then my approach towards that living entity will be a more respectful approach. Because I know Krishna or God is inside this person. So if I speak anything wrong to this person, if I do anything wrong to this person, if I see this person with a wrong vision, I'm indirectly projecting all of that towards the Supreme Lord also sitting inside that person. Isn't it? So I'll be less offensive. I'll be less offensive towards people, not just towards people, towards things as well. And that less offensive dealings will lead to better practice of sadhana bhakti. Because in long run in Krishna consciousness, offenses are the biggest obstacles in the path of progress. Nothing else stops our progress so much as offenses or offensive mentality. So how do we come out of this offensive mentality? This mantra is teaching us that by cultivating this consciousness, that everything around me is also related to Krishna. Okay, seeing things connection with Krishna simultaneously. Fine. Okay, let's read the next paragraph. Gopi Manohar.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada. We should not take it for granted that because we cannot see God with our eyes, the Lord has no personal existence. Sri Ishopanishad refutes this argument by declaring that the Lord is far away, but very near also. The abode of the Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even this material sky. If the immaterial sky extends so far, then what to speak of the spiritual sky, which is altogether beyond it? That the spiritual sky is situated far, far away from the material universe is confirmed in the Bhagavad-gita 15.6. But despite the Lord's being so far away, he can at once, within less than a second, descend before us with a speed swifter than that of mind or wind. He can also run so swiftly that no one can surpass him. This has already been described in the previous verse. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So now, if I ask you this question, tell us in what all ways the God is far away. In what all ways? One way Prabhupada explained in this paragraph. But in what all ways the God is, the Supreme Lord is far away. One is the physical distance that is mentioned in this paragraph. That he is in the spiritual sky and the spiritual sky is far, far, far away.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, by mental speculation, if we want to know Krishna, then he is far away.
Very good. What else?
If you do not believe in God, if you think God does not exist, and then if you try to fall in, then he's far, far away from us.
Very good. Thank you.
Hare
If you
Krishna,
don't believe
Prabhu.
in him, he's far away. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, in terms of getting the Lord's mercy is also not an easy task, and to get the Lord's mercy is also is a challenging and a long task. Prabhuji.
So it means he's not easily conquerable.
Yes, Prabhu.
Or his mercy is not easily conquerable.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot catch hold of him easily. So he's far away. What else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I was thinking maybe the Lord is before us, but but we also engrossed in Maya, that we cannot see him.
Okay. So means you will say, because of Maya, he seems to be far away. Or someone mentioned due to demonic mentality, he is far away. Or if I don't surrender to Krishna, then Krishna is far away. Right? And at the same time, if I serve Krishna, surrender to Krishna, and love Krishna, Krishna is very near me. Very near to me. Right? So it's simultaneously far and near. It's in his control.
Prabhuji, those meditating on the impersonal aspect, for them.
For them, Krishna is far away. Okay. Yes, his personal aspect is far away. Right. So
much materially attached also, Krishna is very far away.
Yes, those are materially attached Krishnas. All right, thank you. So it depends on us, yes.
Yeah. Just a practical, my understanding, Guru, that when I was in India, so ISKCON temple was actually every day in the path in which we go to college and come back. It was just near, but there was never an inclination to. I never seen that, but when I come to know, when I left my place and went far away, that time I come to know about ISKCON. Then I went back to the same city, and it one was where the bus stop where we used to come and get in the bus stop actually. Just behind that, the compound dollars, and ISKCON was there. So it was so unconceivable for me. When I thought about Krishna, Krishna came. And until then, I didn't think about Krishna. Krishna was just behind, standing there. Like I felt like that actually. It's so inconceivable and so difficult to answer this question. How to figure it out? Now we feel Krishna is there, right in our home.
Yes, yes.
So
this is the situation of most of the devotees outside India, right? That when they were in India, they never took Krishna consciousness very seriously. And then when they went out of India, then suddenly now they're in Krishna consciousness completely. For most of the Indians, that is the situation outside India. Yes. Okay. So that means that it is Krishna's independent choice. It's his personal choice. If he wants to reveal, he'll reveal. If he wants to hide, he will hide. It's up to him, completely up to him. It's totally independent. And also it depends on how we see it, how we approach Krishna. If we approach Krishna that he's far away, then he's going to be far away. If we approach Krishna that he's very close by, then he'll be close by. You know this pastime of Draupadi Chirharan in the Kuru Sabha. She was being disrespected by the Kauravas, and Dusashan was pulling on her sari, and she went to help for. She went to everyone for help. No one came forward. Finally, she left it on Krishna. She raised her hands and she cried that, "Oh, Dwarkadish Krishna, please come and help me." So Krishna came, and of course, Krishna came quite swiftly, but still it was few moments of gap. So later on in Mahabharata, it's mentioned that Draupadi asked Krishna that, "Why did you delay so much?" Krishna said, "I was just on time. Nothing wrong happened. Your respect was protected." So Draupadi said, "But no, you are still a little late, late by little few moments." So then Krishna told Draupadi, "You call me by the name Dwarkadish. By telling me Dwarkadish, you put me in Dwarka." Right? So now it will take some time to come from Dwarka, no? If you have called me by the name, "Oh Lord, who is sitting in my heart," I would have just popped out of the heart, immediately. So it's you who put me far away. That's why I had to go all the way to Dwarka and then come back from there. But he would have said, "The Lord sitting in my heart," I would have just jumped out of the heart. So it's the way I will deal with Krishna, that Krishna either goes far or is very close to me. Right? And it's a matter of cultivating that consciousness that Krishna is always with me. Krishna is not far away. One has to cultivate that consciousness that Krishna is always with me. Wherever I go. We sing that in Nrsimharati, "Yato yato yami, tato Krishna." Right? Wherever we go, Krishna is there. Okay, next paragraph. Alok Prabhuji. Please read Alok Prabhuji. Yes, this paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandvat. Yet when the personality of Godhead comes before us, we neglect him. Such foolish negligence is condemned by the Lord in the Bhagavad-gita 9.11, where he says that the foolish deride him, considering him a mortal being. He is not a mortal being, nor does he come before us with a body produced of material nature. There are many so-called scholars who contend that the Lord descended in a body made of matter, just like an ordinary living being. Not knowing his inconceivable power, such foolish man places the Lord on an equal level with the ordinary man.
Thank you. Next paragraph, Shravani Mother.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Because he is full of inconceivable potencies, God can accept our service through any sort of medium, and he can convert his different potencies according to his own will. Non-believers argue either that the Lord cannot incarnate himself at all, or that if he does, he descends in a form of material energy. These arguments are nullified if we accept the existence of the Lord's inconceivable potencies. Then we will understand that even if the Lord appears before us in the form of material energy, it is quite possible for him to convert this energy into spiritual energy. Since the source of the energies is one and the same, the energies can be utilized according to the will of their source. For example, the Lord can appear in the form of the Archa Vigraha, a deity subsidly made of earth, stone, or wood. Deity forms, although engraved from wood, stone, or other matter, are not idols as the iconoclast content. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So here, a very important point to understand is the degree to which Krishna will manifest to us through the objects that we come across in our Krishna consciousness, whether it's a japamala, whether it's a scripture in front of us, or it's the deity that we worship, the degree to which Krishna will manifest through that particular form will depend on the level of my faith. If my surrender and faith is 10%, then Krishna will also manifest 10%. If my faith and surrender is 100%, then through that deity, through that japamala, through that Bhagavad-gita, Krishna will manifest 100%. Krishna has that ability. So it all depends on how I approach Krishna through these things that I have around me. That's why in Krishna consciousness, whether you're a new devotee or you're an old practitioner, the means to achieve progress in Krishna consciousness is not different. It's the same. Same mantra, same deity, same books, everything is same. But it just depends on me how much I have faith that Krishna is present in this particular thing. To that extent, Krishna will manifest. Right? To that extent, Krishna will reveal through that particular object. It can also be through the devotees around me. To the extent I believe and have faith that these are Krishna's devotees and Krishna can manifest through them, to that extent, Krishna will also manifest through them. It is possible, right? That's why for a person who is a devotee, even if you don't do pran pratishtha of the deity will respond. Even if you don't do all the ceremony to invite or let's say invoke the presence of the Lord in the deity. From the day when if you start worshipping the deity with devotion and love, Krishna will be present in that deity without doing pran pratishtha. Because Krishna will reciprocate. Okay, this person has devotion for me, I'll start reciprocating through this form, through this particular image. So that depends on now one's faith, how much one has this faith that Krishna is present. Same thing in the holy name. How much I have faith that Krishna is present in my beads or in the names that I chant. To that extent, Krishna will reveal. Sometimes we, during our bad days in Krishna consciousness, we become a kind of hopeless, and we think, oh, there is no good devotee around. There is no genuine devotee around. If I have to ask some questions, there is no one who can give me the right answer. No one is pure enough. No one is advanced enough, and I cannot get help. I'm in a hopeless situation. So that kind of mentality will lead to actually greater and greater experiences of negativity rather than positivity. Rather, even if we are going through bad times in our spiritual life, we should think there is Krishna around, and Krishna can speak to me through any of these people around me. They can help me. I'm going to the Bhagavatam class today. The speaker will give the answer to the question that I want to hear. The speaker will speak so, because that Krishna can manifest himself through the speaker. Today I have a problem, I have an anxiety. If I open Bhagavad-gita, Krishna can speak through this Bhagavad-gita to me and can give me the answer of my questions. With such faith, if we open Gita and read it, with such faith, if we go to a class and listen to the speaker, with such faith, if we go to the deity and pray to the deity, we will see Krishna will also manifest. But don't you agree, many times we go with little faithlessness, that though we study the Gita, we don't really think Gita will give answers to our questions, will solve our problems, will remove our anxiety. Though we go to the class, to attend the class, we have already decided in the mind, this devotee doesn't know how to give a good class. Krishna can never speak through this devotee. When we are going to the deity, we have already decided in our mind that this deity, it never responded to my prayers. So today is also, it's going to be the same thing. So when we approach with that, those reservations in our mind, it doesn't inspire Krishna to come out and reveal himself. But Krishna, because he's present everywhere, if I don't go with these reservations in my mind, then Krishna can reveal himself. every moment, through everyone. Krishna can come out, right? It's possible. So one has to develop that attitude. Yes, Krishna is everywhere, is inside everything, and Krishna can also come out through anyone and everyone to help me when I need the help. Next paragraph. Okay. Please don't mind if you all don't get an opportunity to read, because if you don't get today, don't worry, it's not the last class. You'll get it next time. I'm giving the chance to those who have taken sannyas from reading, so that they are inspired to read, or those are newcomers. Fine. Let's see who's new. Okay, Sita Mataji. She's not new, but yes, she was off track for many days.
In our present state of imperfect material existence, we cannot see the Supreme Lord due to imperfect vision. Yet those devotees who want to see him by means of material vision are favored by the Lord, who appears in a so-called material form to accept devotees' service. One should not think that such devotees who are in the lowest stage of devotional service are worshipping an idol. They are factually worshipping the Lord, who has agreed to appear before them in an approachable way. Nor is the archer form fashioned according to the whims of the worshipper. This form is eternally existent with all paraphernalia. This can be actually felt by a sincere devotee, but not by an atheist.
Yes. Okay, so please try to answer this question. Now, if someone challenges you and says, is not the material form of the deity limiting the Lord? What will you say? God is great, but then you are putting God in such a small deity or statue or idol. Is it not limiting the size of the Lord? Is it not making God small?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. May I, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Prabhu, no amount of physical forms will truly, I believe, be good enough to depict the realities of Lord Krishna. So no, my answer, Prabhuji, is no. It does not limit the Lord's potencies in any way by giving him a deity form or worshipping in a deity form, Prabhuji.
Which means God can manifest himself completely through the deity form? Yes or
yes,
no?
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
So how will you convince that person that God can do it?
Prabhuji, like I said, Prabhuji, my belief, Prabhuji, is the physical form, any physical form is not sufficient enough for a devotee to completely capture all the potencies of the Lord in terms of his, in comparison to the realities of his capabilities. A human being or a devotee or a non-devotee cannot capture all his potencies in a deity form. So it is beyond our imagination, Prabhuji, is what I believe, or we cannot.
But the question is something different. The question is not that. The question is, if the Lord is so great, so vast, so huge, and we are saying the God is in this particular form, then this form has a particular size. It cannot move around. It cannot, move its own limbs or eyes or head. So in that way, are you not making the Lord immobile? Are you not making the Lord dumb and deaf? Are you not removing all those powers from the Lord by putting the Lord in that particular image? This is exactly what, the believers in Islam would say.
So can I, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna?
Someone else, yes.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, we are not limiting the God in any way. It is God's own wish that he wants to appear before us in the way we would be able to, conceive him, approach him, we'll be able to worship him. So we are not limiting the God in any way.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So this is what a great Sri Vaishnavacharya says. He says, he gives a beautiful example. He says, if you go to some of the South Indian temples, you'll find an elephant inside the temple, a real elephant. That elephant takes the Lord around the temple on a procession. So elephants are very tall in height. And even a normal man, a grown-up man, will find difficult to jump onto the back of the elephant. The elephant has to come down for you to sit on the elephant. You can't just jump onto the top of the elephant, isn't it? So if a child is standing there and a child wishes to climb onto the back of the elephant, the child cannot do it on its own. For that, the elephant has to sit down, which means the elephant has to reduce its height, the elephant has to reduce its power, and the elephant has to become of the size on which the child can easily sit over or climb over. Isn't it correct? So the deity form of the Lord is an extension of the Lord's mercy, because of which the Lord chooses to come in a particular form, which is not as great as him, but actually which contains him, so that a devotee gets a chance to serve or reciprocate. It's like the elephant sitting down. Now you climb on top of him, and then the elephant will stand up again. Like that, the Lord is reducing himself. The Lord is lowering himself, so that we get a chance to serve him. So it's Krishna's mercy factor. Krishna allows that to happen. So Prabhupada mentions, the Lord appears in a seemingly limited form, made up of wood, stone, or some other matter, but remains unlimited. Example, an elephant sitting down to let the child pat it or sit upon it. Now someone may say, if the Lord is omnipotent, but the deity cannot move even a fly away from its face, or the deity cannot stop the mouse from eating its bhoga. So how is the Lord omnipotent? Even the Muslims said the same thing when they destroyed the deities in India. They said, this is your God? The Hindu said, yes. So they said, will your God protect himself if you try to destroy him? The Hindus are like, we don't know. So the Muslims, they broke those deities. And then they said, we killed your God. So your God cannot protect yourself. So in that situation, how will you answer their point or their argument? That God is not able to protect himself. I am able to break the deity or destroy the deity. If God is omnipotent, why he does not?
Prabhuji, can we consider this to be, an example of a particular, street lights? Okay, the source is at a particular distance, and one street light goes off, does not mean the source is not emanating the light. So it is like if you're destroying a particular deity, you're not destroying the Lord. You're
very good. Very nice. Thank you. Good explanation. What else can you say? Yes, Tulasi Mataji.
So, Prabhu, it's the Lord can choose to reveal himself of his own free will. And sometimes he likes to bewilder those who doesn't approach him in the right manner. So this is part of his bewildering energy, I suppose.
Okay, thank you. What else? No, okay, fine. But let's say even a Hindu has this doubt that how could those people, they could destroy these deities? I mean, if Krishna really exists, he should have come out of that form and punished them and chopped off their heads, just like Narsingadev came out of the pillar and he killed all the demons. So why did the Lord not come out of that deity form and protect his devotees, kill the demons, teach them a lesson?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Can I say something, bro, on this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Prabhuji, when both the first question and second question are so intricate and so very oftenly, these two questions keep thrown at any devotee, any person who is in the path of worshipping the Lord as a deity form. Actually, the answer to this scientifically is the best way, I think, to make people understand that we're talking about the energy. The energy, as per the even material term, material explanation, energy is neither destroyed nor created. Presently, the Lord energy is being brought to us in the form of a deity, and we worship the deity, and Lord, due to his omnipotence and inconceivable nature, can reciprocate to us. So a physical destruction, this physical removing of the Lord in front of the eyes doesn't mean the Lord is not existent, because it's still existent in another form, which even Islam or anybody can understand. The Lord's form is in a different form. I per se seem to be relatively telling that, okay, the deity is now being this thing, so he could not protect. How can he say that? I am telling he still protected him. He still protected him. You just thinking that, then you are limiting the Lord. Then the person who is that this is thinking that the Lord is this, and therefore he limited his thing. And he himself says the Lord is inconceivable, omnipotent, is greater than everything, is bigger than everything, smaller than everything. So that person is contradicting himself. He is thinking and by doing that he has defeated Lord.
All right, thank you. Also, another angle of explaining this or understanding this is that Krishna's different incarnations, they solve different purposes.
Yes.
Krishna does not come in 𝗪𝗏 form to show his power to the world. That's not the purpose of that incarnation. 𝗪𝗏 is also an incarnation.
Okay.
If he has to show his power to the world, he shows his power to the world through Narsingha avatar. He shows his power to the world through Parshurama avatar. You know, he shows those powers through those avatars. Through 𝗪𝗏 avatar, he comes to accept seva, not to show his omnipotence or greatness.
Okay.
Because it's an extension of the Lord just to allow us to serve him, right? He has not come to prove that he is God in that particular form.
Correct.
So that form is only doing activities of what is required for that form to do, which is if I serve that form will accept seva. If I don't serve that form, no problem.
Correct.
Isn't it? So Lord's deity form is a manifestation of his mercy and not omnipotence. The purpose of the deity is to give an opportunity to serve. So that's why if there is a fly sitting on the face of the deity, it's the mistake of the pujari that the pujari is not keeping the temple clean. If there is a rat who is eating the bhoga of the deity, it's a mistake of the pujari that the pujari is not keeping the temple clean. If people are coming from other places and attacking the deity of the Lord, then it's the mistake of the people serving the deity that they are not protecting the deity.
Okay.
The Lord will not do that because that's not what he has come for.
Okay.
Isn't it? So if the Muslims could destroy the deities, then the mistake was of those who were serving the deities. They should have protected the deities. If they really believe that this is Krishna and he should be protected. And that's why we know that the sadhus in Vrindavan, they send the deities away to Rajasthan. That this is our Lala, is our child, who should be protected.
Correct.
So people have to understand philosophically why the deity comes. Now, another very important point now to be discussed is 3 levels of vision. This is something very nicely explained by Srila Bhaktivinoda when he describes the science of deity worship. So he says the 3 levels of vision are called Jaramaya, Manomaya, and Chinmaya. Okay, please try to understand. Little technical subject, but we are studying Ishopanishad in that light only. Jaramaya, Manomaya, and Chinmaya. A person can look at the deity with these three different visions. Jalamaya vision means what? This deity is a statue. It is dead. Not difficult to understand. Right? It's Jala. Doesn't have life. That's called Jalamaya vision. Then the next vision is called Manomaya. Manomaya means, this is something very important to understand. It's a symbolic representation of the absolute truth. Symbolic representation is a concept which the Mayavadis or the impersonalists speak about. So they say the Lord is formless, but because we cannot see something formless, we give a form to the Lord. We ascribe some form to the Lord just to experience some emotions. So this is called Manomaya vision. Like people like even Sadhguru, he talks about this concept. If you ask Sadhguru, is God a human? He will say no, because you are a human, for you God is human. If there is an animal society, then for them, God is an animal. If there's a plant society, then for them, God is a plant. Means the understanding is what? It's we who give a form to God. Because we are humans, we give a form to God of the nature of a human. We have given that form just to relate. This is called symbolism. Symbolism. You know? Like to give an example, there are two kinds of symbolisms, ascending and descending. A nation is participating in the Olympics, or a nation is participating in a sports tournament. So that nation is identified by a symbol, and that symbol is what? The flag of that nation. Correct? Isn't it? So because nation is an impersonal entity, nation is not a person, nation is an impersonal entity, that impersonal entity is given a personal symbol so that people can show their emotions towards it. You know? So that's why, okay, if you respect India, then you should also respect the Indian flag. If you respect India, you should also respect the India's anthem song, the national anthem. This is called ascending symbolism. That there is something impersonal, and then there is some form, you ascribe it to it, and you connect it. But then here, please try to understand, in this symbolism, is there any connection between the country and the flag? Actually, is there any connection? Yes, no? No, there's no connection. There's no connection. You know, India's flag is of a particular design now. After 100 years, if they change the flag, nothing is going to happen to the country. Right? It's an abstract diagram which is just used to represent the country. So this is called ascending symbolism, when the symbol has no relationship to the entity it is representing. Fine. Such kind of imaginative concoctions are not allowed in the Vedas, and that's why the Vedas, they have statements like na tasya pratima asti. Don't give God an imaginary form. Don't imagine God. When people who are following Islam, they say God has no image, they are not properly studying their scriptures. They're not studying the Quran nicely. They are not studying the Islamic literatures nicely. What was happening is, in the times when this religion was born, then there was a city where these people, they were imagining God to be like anything, like anyone. So they were making some imaginative forms, and they started worshipping those forms as God. So in order to prevent that from happening, all statues and idols were destroyed. This is wrong. You cannot concoct God to be something and then start worshipping that form as God. That's why Vedas also says, na tasya pratima asti. Don't give an image to God. You cannot concoct an image for God, right? But there's something else which is known as descending symbolism. Descending symbolism. Give you an example of descending symbolism. I am a person who is existing, right? And someone takes a photograph of me. Fine. That photograph is my symbol. But then that photograph has a connection to me. Isn't it? It's called descending symbolism. That photograph, that person will be reminded of me. That person will remember me. That person will think about me. That person will also get all the emotional feelings that person has towards me, right? So that is called descending symbolism. Yeah. At the same time, that photograph is exactly not me. It is different from me. However, it has come from me. It has a relationship with me. So this is called Manomaya vision. Okay. And now what is Chinmaya? Chinmaya is that particular form which we are seeing is non-different manifestation of the absolute truth, but in a different style or in a different manner. So there are these three types of vision. The Mayavadis, they are at the second level, Manomaya vision. The atheists, they are at the first level, Jadamaya vision. And devotees, they have to go to this third level, which is Chinmaya. It's Chinmaya. So Bhakti-siddhanta Thakur says, we are not doing idol worship because the form that we are worshipping is an eternal form. It's not imagined by us. In this form, the Lord exists in the spiritual world, right? So it's a replica of that form. It's not an imagination. That's why it's not idol worship, it's deity worship. Okay, so this was little technical part to this. Now we end here. Any questions or comments for what we discussed today? Okay, I have power cut here. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, when we understand the Lord in the way we understand through Vedas or through any other source, a biblical source or modern source, when we understand, we perform certain activity to reciprocate to Lord. So how does it matter I perform through Krishna conscious or through other means? Both, all three of us are understanding there is supremacy over us.
Which are the three ways you mentioned, Prabhuji?
Impersonalism, personalism, and voidism. Either way, where there is a supreme personality, we say through Vedic perspective, and we serve the Lord through means of bhakti. One performs service to Lord through impersonalism. Another, he performing it like impersonalism, but they say they don't have realization of the form of the Lord. We have been told to do 5 times like this. We are doing that. So all of us are performing an activity, but Lord is supreme is what all of us are working on.
That is correct. So there's no denying that different people are not at all God conscious. Everyone is God conscious to some extent. We don't deny that the followers of Islam, they don't at all accept God. We don't say that they don't at all accept God. We understand when we accept that they also accept God, but then their realization of God is not complete. That's the basic difference between the Hindus' approach and a Vaishnava's approach. The Hindus' approach is what? Only Hindus know God. Islamic people, they don't know. The Islamic people's approach is only Islam is the way to God. Hinduism cannot give you God. Right? But a Vaishnava's approach is what? That different people, because they want to know God to different levels, God has given himself to them to that level. It's on the basis of their desire. To what extent do they want to know the Lord? Some people, they are happy to accept Lord as impersonal. So for them, it's okay. I'm impersonal. Now let me ask you this simple question. Why some people are happy to accept God as impersonal?
Because
Why?
they feel that form means we are limiting.
No.
Like
there's some other
seva.
reason. Yeah, very good. They are lazy. They don't want to do any seva.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you accept God as a form, you'll have to do seva, no?
Correct.
So because they are lazy people, they don't want to serve Krishna in his personal form. So that's why God is impersonal. So you are able to understand the extent to which they want to give themselves to Lord is small.
Okay.
That's why the realization is also small, incomplete. It's just like that. So they know they are God conscious, but they are partially God conscious. 5%, 10%, 20%, 50%, whatever it may be. That's why in Bhagavad-gita, Baladeva Vidyabhushana Prabhu says that actually there are not just few religions. There are as many religions as many hearts. There are as many religions as many hearts, because that as many people, their level of faith will be different, no?
Correct.
So they have their own individual religion, but we just put that a name. Okay, this is Islam, this is Hinduism, this is Christianity. But within Islam also you'll find so many divisions. Within Hinduism also you'll find so many divisions. So it says as many hearts, that many religions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And we have some more questions. Huh? Vaiji Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So the descending form Manomaya, is that okay for a devotee or not?
No.
Okay, so it is just a Chinmaya form that.
Yes. Yes. It has to be Chinmaya.
Okay.
So Manomaya is also be wrong. That understanding is incomplete.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Like for example, if you have a photograph of mine, you can tear that photograph to pieces. That's not going to affect me, isn't it?
Right.
Right? But Chinmaya vision is not like that. So when we are dealing with the deity, we'll be so careful. I'm dealing with the Supreme Lord. I cannot deal roughly with the state. Isn't it?
Yes.
Right? So our vision is not symbolic vision.
Thank you.
Tulasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So my question is relating to the ascending aspect, I suppose, where you have an imagery form of the Lord. Is it a correct understanding to say that we have sort of like from an all-pervasive perspective in Chinmaya philosophy, that view that we understand that the Lord is everywhere and in everything, but we also simultaneously understand that he is that every impersonal, the all-pervasive aspect is not the original, and that there is still a form and an original. So we understand that concept of everywhere and everything, plus at the same time, the original form. Is that a correct way of understanding it?
Yes, we understand both the aspects. No, we understand the impersonal and personal. We take both, and at the same time, we know the relative difference between them.
Okay.
And we know because the impersonal energy of Krishna is also an energy of his. Through that impersonal energy, his personal form can manifest anywhere. So when a devotee says God is everywhere, please, it's not the same as an impersonal is saying God is everywhere. For a devotee, a Vaishnava, God is everywhere means I see Krishna in his Shamsundar form in front of me everywhere I go. Like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
God is everywhere for me. Not just in the form of his energy, but actually as a personality is everywhere. But that needs a very advanced level of consciousness or vision or relationship, you can say. Right? Isn't it? Bhakti Mats. Hare Krishna. Not around. Usha Mats.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Tanvatna. Prabhuji, I just needed guidance from you that when you said Draupadi, when she remembered, she says Dwarkadhish. So Bhagwan had to go back to Dwarka, and then if she had...
it's not really like that. You see, Krishna is just...
is that when we are in any difficulty or we need guidance from him, we remember him or take guidance as a Paramatma or Bhagwan. Of course, we don't go from the impersonal aspect. So can you guide me on that, Prabhuji?
Krishna, when he's saying like that, Draupadi, we should know that Krishna is not literally meaning that. Krishna is just teaching a lesson to us through Draupadi, that how do we see Krishna, how far he is, accordingly he'll stay far. So it doesn't mean that, okay, now if I start calling Krishna with the name Dwarkadish, then Krishna will have to go all the way to Dwarka and come back. No, that is just a figurative way of telling the actual lesson. What is that actual lesson? Actual lesson is, if you see God is far away from you, he's far away from you. If you see God is near you, he is near you. Right? So if you are approaching him for help, he will be there to help you if you think he's close by. That's the main lesson. Not exactly if I chant this particular name of Krishna, then Krishna will take 2 seconds to come. If I chant that name of Krishna, it'll take 10 seconds to come. Not really figurative like that, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. How to understand exact Lord forms when we see different shape of Lord Krishna? Okay, so this is a question of a devotee, that the different deities of Krishna look differently. So how do we know what is exactly the eternal form of Krishna? See, for us who see the deity because of our conditioned vision, we don't really see the deity's actual form. We only see the form which the sculptor has made, isn't it? The sculptor has made a particular form. We only see that form. We don't see the actual form which the deity has. So to see that actual form of the deity, one needs a different vision. We only see the form which the sculptor is making. And the sculptor is making that form with some understanding of this is how Krishna looks like. It's called, it resembles Krishna. In Bhakti-sastri, we'll study that it resembles Krishna. And because it resembles Krishna, it can remind us of Krishna. To give you an example, if you see a peacock feather and you are a devotee of Krishna, immediately you remember Krishna, because that peacock feather is associated with Krishna. Peacock feather is on his turban or on his crown. So it resembles Krishna's original form, or it gives you an indication to Krishna's original form, so it helps you to remember Krishna. Likewise, when the deity is sculpted, it is given a form like Krishna as is described in the Vedas, so that when you look at that form, it resembles Krishna, it will help you to remember Krishna. That's all. It doesn't mean that exactly it's going to be like that. What exactly it is will depend on when we develop the actual vision to see, we'll see how exactly it looks like. Okay, any other question? We end here. So we stop here. We'll see you tomorrow. Just a request, in tomorrow morning, yes, Goswami's Vani is more confidential than the Vani of the Vedas. Yes, it's true. There are many things which the Vedas don't reveal, which the intimate associates of Krishna reveal. Yes. The thing is, for tomorrow, instead of starting the class at 10 a.m. India time, can we start it at 11 a.m. India time? Because 10 a.m. India time would be Mangala Aarti time for me. It would be difficult.
Very good.
Very good. Very good.
So 11 a.m. please, for just for 3 weeks. After that, we go back to 10 a.m.
Very nice. You can finish.
All right, thank you.